Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. This is round 5 of the WTRL Zwift Racing League. This is Tempos and Towers. Remember and subscribe, leave a comment if you enjoy this video and the other content on this channel. So let's get right to it then. This is a points race, 1 lap, 32.5 kilometers, 319 meters of elevation. And this one is over the Temples and Towers route of Makuri Island. There are 3 intermediate segments offering first over the line and fastest through points. They are the rooftop climb, the castle climb and the temple climb. All climbs this week, nothing for the sprinters. This week's 3 power-ups are the aero helmets, which is of limited use this week without any sprints, but I suppose if you got it for the final sprint you might be quids in. The burrito is here for some mutually assured destruction, and the steamroller is here, which is going to be great for the dirt climb. The bike choice this week is actually quite interesting, so while a large part of the course favours the Tron and the S-Works Venge as usual, for those of you going through fastest through on the temple climb, you may want to consider a swap to a gravel bike at the bottom of that climb, and for that the Cervelo Aspero and the Canyon Grail are going to be your go-to choices here. So out on course we go, and from the starting pens we're going to hang an immediate right, so make sure you are warmed up. This one is going to be hard and fast, and it is quite flat. The short lead-in is only 0.7 kilometers, and the city itself is largely flat. So get ready to put out some watts and stay with the main group. The first action of the day is at 2.1 kilometers. This is a little 4% rise. We're going to go up onto the train tracks. It only lasts for about 250 meters though, so it's going to be over real quick, but it might just cause a little split if you are not careful. Then as we come off of the relatively flat train tracks, we come to the rooftop KOM. So this is a step climb that begins about 3.4 kilometers on your map and continues for 1.9 kilometers at an average of 2.7%. But averages don't tell the story of this one. Individual sections at 6+% lead into short flats before the road pitches up again. You can almost think of it as 8 separate efforts between 4 and 7% with short breaks in between. And as you run up the hill, you will finally get your sweet relief at 5.2 kilometers. This is definitely where the main breaks of the race are going to go, so you're going to have to be on the ball and powering those legs over to make sure that you stick with the front group. This section has first across the line, and it also has the fastest through section as well. So if you're looking to pick up some intermediate points, this is a good place to start your haul. Once we get through this banner, it is going to be downhill, but there is no opportunity to super tuck here because of the short flats that scrub off the speed. There's nothing much else to write home about as you're on the flats from 7 kilometers all the way as you head out of town. There is a very short gravel section around 11.9 kilometers, but it's just a couple of hundred meters before you join the main tarmac of the countryside part of the map. The rolling countryside terrain is going to continue along with some small ups and downs until you get to the second climb of the day. And this is the castle climb. So this one starts at 15.1 kilometers with just a slight rise before the road properly starts to point upwards when you hit the little wooden bridge at around 16.1 kilometers. So once again, this is a climb that the average gradients don't tell the whole story, just due to the number of little flats and little rises. So when you get over the bridge and you are going to start the climb proper with sections up to 8%, mixed in with little flatter sections to give you a little bit of respite. When you get to 16.5 kilometers, you are going to have a nice little flat section for around 300 meters just to catch your breath before everything starts to point back upwards again. And once you get through the little flat section, when you reach 16.8 kilometers, then you're going to start ascending once again when you get onto the stone surfaces and start looking up towards the castle. Again, it doesn't tell the full story because once you get up to the top of the hill, it's going to level off once again. So around 17.5 kilometers, you're going to have 300 meters of almost pan flat before you get to the King of the Mountains Arch itself at 17.8 kilometers. And you can see here as we're just coming around, and it's just a sprint now, a flat sprint until the archway right here. You get a short spell of flat to catch your breath once again after you go through the banner, and then the road continues upwards at around 4%. This one is going to start around 18.2 kilometers. It's going to last until around 18.7 kilometers until you get out of the junction. And once you reach 18.7, you get a nice bit of downhill. The downhill respite is short-lived, however, and now it's time for something a little different. And this brings the old question once again of bike swaps. So at 20 kilometers, you're going to hang a right and onto the gravel for the third and final climb of the day, the tempo climb. Now this one has first across the line and fastest through, of course, but being an entirely gravel climb, this means that the first 100 meters before the climb starts is a good place if you're planning on going for fastest through to do your bike swap onto a gravel bike and get yourself going again before you reach the start of the climb. So the climb itself starts at 20.1 kilometers. It's a 1.9 kilometer climb at 3.5% average gradient, but as I've said with the other climbs, this whole map, they're all the same. This just does not tell the story of the climb. This is entirely gravel, this has hugely steep pinches, and this one is going to hurt. So the start is fairly gentle when you get to about 20.3 kilometers, and the first big rise is going to be at about 20.7 when it's going to get up to around 6%, with pinches as high as 10%, before it starts to ease back just a little bit. When you hit 21 kilometers, you're into a steep 7% section, pinches at 10%, and this unrelenting slog just continues with short, flat sections interspersed into the grinds. But this one is really going to hurt, especially if you don't go for the bike swap. As you can see, you just need to keep grinding up this hill. In the video I went for the Tron bike, it's probably the best option if you're not going to go for a bike change. It doesn't perform too badly on gravel, but either way, if you're on a road bike, this one is really going to hurt. There is a short respite coming up though if you reach 21.7 kilometers, a nice flat section as you will go over the bridge and get a chance to catch your breath on the 0 and 1% gradients. But once you see this tree on the road here, going across the road, you know that the respite is over and it is back to the grind. Uphill we go, sections at up to 10% follow, and then you will eventually get your sweet relief at 22.2 kilometers when the climbing is over, because once again the end part of this climb is on the flat, where it just becomes a sprint to the banner, which is finally at 22.6 kilometers. The downhill section afterwards is going to give you a chance to catch your breath, but not really enough time to rest your legs. You won't be able to get into the super tuck again, but the hard work is done for the day as you are now over the climbs. There's still a long way to go, but at least the worst of the climbing is over. As you head for home, you'll go back down the castle climb, which has short points that you can reach a super tuck speed, but it's a gamble though, because if you go for it, you run the risk of getting dropped off the back and losing the draft, and if that happens at these speeds, it is race over. So it's all flat and rolling terrain from here on in as you head back towards the bright lights of Nyokyo. And once you're back in the city, it's only around a kilometre or so to go, so you really need to start putting your sprint plans into action. The finish line almost totally unsighted. You will literally be on top of it before you even see it. And we're going to slow this back down here, because when you go under this underpass, this is around 400 metres to go. And this is where you really want to start laying down your sprint power, because you need to be hammering on. You won't see the actual banner itself until around 60 meters to go. So you're going to go along here, the road kinks off slightly to the right before taking another left and a right again, and at this point you need to be at full speed because you have got less than 100 meters to go. When you turn this left, you'll get your sight of the banner, and this is it. Give it everything you've got. You should be out front and on your way to a well-deserved victory here in the Temples and Towers route in round 5. So let's take a quick look at where we think this race is going to get split up. The first and most obvious one is the little rise onto the train tracks. That's the first place that it might get split, but it is very short. The second one, very obvious, the rooftop KOM. Anyone that doesn't have their climbing legs on is just going to get blown right out the back. Then a long flat section, and here comes the next breakup point, the Castle KOM. Anyone feeling a little bit tired by then is probably going to be on their way out. A bit of blessed relief, and the last point that the race is likely going to be won is the final climb of the day, the Tempo KOM reverse. Now it says 1.9 kilometers at 3.5%, but we've seen the video. We know this is gravel. This could determine the race, even though there is still a long way to go. If you made a bike choice, if you switched onto gravel, if you stayed the same, or if you saved your legs. So this is going to decide the whole thing. That's where this is broken up. Hopefully that brings us to the end, so that is it for another week. We are in Watopia next week. We're going up the hills with the Climber's Gambit, so I will see you then. Have a great week.